Husband shattered my hope of motherhood by demanding we begin a family now, despite my cancer and miscarriage battles. I 29F just had a very difficult conversation with my husband 31 male, and honestly, I feel a little heartbroken. For context, I have always and still do want to be a mother. But after having cancer twice and serious health complications, having a child has been on the back burner. 3 years ago, when I was first diagnosed with cancer, I also found out I was also pregnant. I was so excited and scared but knew everything would be fine and we decided to keep our baby. But after the second trimester, I had complications with high blood pressure, and by month 5, we had lost our son. After my pregnancy, I was hospitalized for 2 weeks, followed by intense health scares that brought me back to the hospital once or twice and almost dying 3 other times. It has been a rough ride, to say the least. Dealing with the grief of my son and battling cancer/cancer-causing symptoms have been the most challenging 3 years of my life. In addition, my cancer has caused issues with becoming pregnant, which adds another layer. My husband and I have been together for 10 years, married for 1, today, and he has been my rock through this all. He occasionally has brought up having children, and I say yes, I would like to when I am healthy, and after some radioactivity I am officially cancer-free this year. Cheers. After an event at my family's house this last Saturday, there was a lot of questions of when we will be having children. I had some flexible stipulations but nothing solid and ended on I don't know at this moment. It's really hard not only with the climate of today's day and affording a child, but with my health as well. I brought up to my husband how it's frustrating when people ask this and I honestly wish they wouldn't because I'm just not sure at this moment, since there are so many moving parts. He then sighed and said, I guess since you brought it up, we are having this conversation. I was confused, because it's not like this was a conversation we've had seriously in the past due to my health concerns. He went off stated that I have been pushing this conversation off for a while and every time he's asked about it that I tell him not yet. I tried intersecting with my concerns about finances and with my recent cancer but he interrupted me and said you are looking at this with rose-colored glasses. You think you still have time when you are getting to a geriatric pregnancy. I was confused and he continued, you already have health complications that is going to make this difficult, so please if you are going to break my heart, just do it now instead of stringing me along. I tried to insist to him that I still wanted children and it was still in my future plans. It's just right now I am unsure and he continued with, we haven't even started planning, it's going to take months, even years before we find the right people, healthcare-wise due to my complications. I tried to be vulnerable and tell him my concerns on to why I've been so hesitant. But then my husband went on about how I'm missing the bigger picture and how I'm running out of time. I brought up how my cousin said she wasn't going to try for another few years, we were trying to have children together, and my husband said well she's younger, and doesn't have the health concerns you do. She is a year younger BTW, a lot is happening in addition to my health complications. My insurance changes so all my doctors who have saved my life and have helped me through my disease, are out of network. So I've been trying to find new in-network doctors I can trust. It ended with me in tears going to the store to get milk and being out for 30 minutes unable to go home. I feel, deep down inside, that my husband has always blamed me for my son's death even though it was due to complications, preeclampsia. My husband then called me on the phone upset I was taking so long. I had turned off my locations for space, and just asked if I was going to be out longer at least let him know so he can get the main fucking ingredient, for dinner, himself again. It was our anniversary dinner. I am just hurt because it's only been 3 years since I was originally diagnosed with cancer and loss of my son. I just officially became diagnosed in remission last month and I don't feel like my time is running out. So I'm posted up in my room, writing this trying to figure out what I did wrong and what my next steps are. My husband isn't normally like this and I don't know how to react. In addition, this is the first serious conversations we've ever had about this. Every other conversation has been still want kids and me going yeah I think so. Reddit, what would you do in my situation? There's so many moving pieces I just don't know what piece to start with. Update 1. I was looking for genuine advice and what I should do next because I wasn't sure. This is a difficult conversation, and I wasn't sure what all the details were needed for this, so let me clarify this. 1. My husband has already chosen me in a life or death situation. I was ready to die on the table for my son, and he vetoed that and told me that he couldn't live without me. 2. My husband and I core values have always been having children. But me mentioning to my cousin at the family party that I might not want children if I don't have the doctor that saved me shocked him because we had never discussed that. 3. Everyone in the comments needs to take a moment to breathe. Again, saying my edit was weird and that I need to just dump him for one argument is absurd. I've been on Reddit long enough to know that this isn't the bottom of the barrel now. On to the update. I couldn't go to bed upset, so I asked my husband if he was going to bed. He said sure, and we started on the long discussion. I explained how what he did hurt me, and he also explained that turning off my locations and ignoring his call hurt him as well. We talked for 2 hours with increased frustration and upset, but I finally understood where my husband was coming from originally. 1. My husband didn't know about my decision with having kids until my cousin brought it up to me. He was hurt. I didn't tell him since I was his wife too. My husband said he would like to know now if he's not going to be a father so he can have his heart broken. But broken hearts can be mended, he just wants to grieve now. 3. My husband feels like he is running out of time and is getting too old to be a father. He works a physically labor job and feels like he can't keep up with the work. 4. He was worried I wasn't taking my health into consideration with the timeline. He felt I was giving pregnancy a year when it can take 3 to 4 due to my health issues. 5. My husband just wanted to be in the loop and felt like I hadn't given him an answer but freely gave it to my cousin. 6. My husband was just looking for communication but was hurt regarding what I had said at the party. He thought the plan had always been in January, and I haven't been communicating to him the stressors of finding all new providers, especially for my cancer doctor now. Honestly, everyone's been asking me in my life when I'll have a child, and I panicked. I'm tired of people asking me due to my cancer just hitting remission. It's adding more unnecessary stress. My husband just begged me to tell him and he will be my defender and tell people to fuck off if they ask. I also confessed to him how scared I am to get pregnant and almost dying again. He said, that's all I needed to hear from you. I'm scared of losing you again. It was a very hard heart to heart. But I'm happy it was had. I do think if we are trying to have a baby in the next year, couples counseling will be mandatory. We've had it before. In addition, I told him I don't believe he's healed from our son, and he said you never heal from that. So I'm hoping we can find him his own therapist. Thank you for all who actually gave advice with compassion and grounded me to see his point of view. I really did come here for advice and got some great advice. My husband is a person too, and honestly in the moment I was so hurt I couldn't see his point of view. For the rest of you mean Redditors, please get a new hobby. Relationships have these ups and downs and shouldn't be thrown away just from one hard conversation. My husband ended the conversation how much he loves me. He just doesn't want to be the last to know when he should be the first. Second edit, let me clear some things up. We live in America and finding providers with my insurance has been difficult. I can't get UBGN without prior approval unless I am pregnant or insurance won't pay for it. If insurance does not pay, I would have to pay $500 to $1,000 out of pocket for the office visit, because it counted as elected office visit. My husband has been looking for a in-person counselor. He has tried virtual before but it hasn't been effective. I have called several providers on his behalf and haven't received a call back. So I do believe he has called and no one has contacted him back. My husband has had multiple therapists that haven't been a right fit. He's not opposed to therapy, but the therapist he's spoken to he hasn't vibed well with. He is pro-therapy. Yes, he did have multiple sessions with each therapist, not just one. Surrogacy/adoption has been discussed, but the cost would put us in more debt. Honestly, it's not the best financial decision. In addition, crazy as it sounds, apparently surrogates are illegal in some states of America. Which was crazy to hear from my surrogate friend. Again, I appreciate all the advice I got, and the comments about me seeming wishy-washy were true. I reread my post and realized it makes me sound like I'm unsure about having children. I do want children, I just don't want to almost die again. So in therapy on Tuesday, I will be talking about that trauma because it's obvious it has been unresolved. Update 2. We actually went to therapy like I said we would. I don't know why I thought I could skate around that session with I'm scared and then we'd leave with a neat little plan and no feelings, because I cried inside the first 5 minutes. Not pretty little tears either. I was trying to describe what it felt like in the delivery room when the beeping started to stack on itself and the nurse's face changed, and my throat closed up so tight I could barely get air. He reached for my hand and squeezed hard enough to ground me. The therapist asked him to tell me what he heard, not what he thought he needed to fix. He said, "I hear that you think if we try again you'll die, and I'll be the one who let you." Hearing him say it out loud snapped something in me. It was the first time he didn't play hero or logistics manager. He just said the scary part. He also admitted he's been getting cornered about kids at work. I didn't know that. He said the guys tease him with "you better get it done before you turn into your old man," and he laughs it off but then goes back to lifting rebar with knees that are starting to sound like bubble wrap. He said he felt me slipping into a soft maybe not at the party and panicked, like he'd been driving towards something for 10 years and suddenly the road wasn't there. It didn't excuse him telling me to break his heart, but at least now I knew why he grabbed for the dramatic phrase. The therapist gave us homework, which I rolled my eyes at and then did anyway. One ridiculously specific ask from each other every day, and no mind reading. His first ask was to stop saying "I don't know" to other people and then coming home with a whole plan brewing in my head he knows nothing about. Mine was that he be the wall, not just the worker. If someone asks, he shuts it down without looking at me for rescue. He nodded and said, "I can be the wall." He meant it. 2 days later we were at his mom's for a quick drop-in and of course it turned into dinner and cards and somebody with a glass of wine got brave. "So when are you two giving me a granddaughter?" His mom half laughed, waiting for me to be adorable about it. He didn't even blink. "We're working with doctors. Don't ask us again." I felt my whole body exhale. His mother's mouth did that thin line thing and she didn't speak to me for the rest of the night, but he filled a bowl with strawberries and handed me the blueberries because he knows I hate picking stems. In the meantime I went detective on the insurance problem. When I called last week the woman said preconception consults aren't covered unless you're pregnant. I told her I have a history of severe preeclampsia and am fresh off radioactive iodine and cancer remission, and she read from a script like I'd told her I have seasonal allergies. I hung up and sat on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinets, forehead on my knees, and ugly cried. He came in, slid down next to me, and said, "Tell me what to say." We called back and he asked for a supervisor. He used the words the therapist gave us: high risk, pre-existing condition, adverse pregnancy outcome, continuity of care. Magic words apparently. She told us if the referral is written with history of preeclampsia and a few other codes, it's covered. The MFM at the big hospital downtown had a cancellation for Friday at 8 a.m. We took it. Driving there felt like a field trip and a funeral all at once. I brought a snack even though my stomach was in my throat. He packed his lunch pail like we were going to watch him pour concrete. We got a parking ticket we will absolutely fight because the sign was a paragraph long and you need a law degree to understand what zone you're in. We were sitting in the waiting room, me squeezing his hand and quietly counting 8 counts in, 8 counts out because I read about breath work at 2 a.m., when my old OB walked by. The one who sat on the edge of my bed and told me I wasn't a failure while they were wheeling me away. I hadn't seen her since the hospital. She saw me and stopped mid-step. "Oh my God," she said, and then she hugged me. She's at this hospital now. In network, I didn't realize how much of my bravery was tied to one woman's voice until I heard it again and didn't feel like I was going to throw up. The MFM's office took so much blood I joked I'd leave as a raisin. The doctor actually listened. I told her everything, even the part where my heart starts pounding when I hear a blood pressure cuff inflate. She didn't brush it off. She said if we try again, we won't be winging it. They'd baseline my kidneys and liver now, get a 24-hour urine, gross, but okay, check my thyroid and antibodies, make sure my TSH is down under 2.5 and stable for a couple months, start low-dose aspirin at 12 weeks if we get there, and follow the hell out of me. She asked if anyone had ever talked to me about a cardio-obstetrics consult, and I said no. She said we'd get that too. She let me cry without handing me a tissue like she was trying to plug the leak. I asked about the radioactive iodine and whether I am radioactive mom material. She said the wait window has passed for the amount I had, as long as my levels are stable and the endo is happy. She wanted the endo to manage my meds aggressively during pregnancy because thyroid swings can play games with blood pressure. I'd have to get monitored a lot and I would need to be okay with that. I told her I don't mind machines, I mind the moment when faces change. She didn't use the word geriatric once. We talked about time in a way that didn't sound like a countdown to doom. Because of my age and history she wants us trying sooner than later, but she didn't say right now or it's over. She gave us windows. She told me what to do with them. I said I wanted to be brave but also not reckless. She said bravery is walking back into a place that hurt you, but with armor. The armor is data and support and a plan. She is a good doctor. He nodded at every single thing like he was taking notes in his head. They also did the ovarian reserve test on me. I'm not going to lie, waiting for that result felt like waiting to hear a jury come back. I was bracing for sorry, you've got dust. When it came back lower than average but not screamingly terrible, I printed the page and put it on the fridge like a kid bringing home a bee and proud. It wasn't a green light, it was a real light, like a street light where you can proceed because there's actual electricity running to it and it's not just a hope lantern in your backyard. The doctor suggested a hysteroscopy because of the D&C and scarring risk and the fact that my periods had gone weird since the radiation. I thought I'd have to fight insurance again, but because I have a history of abnormal bleeding it's covered as a diagnostic. We booked it for the following week. The night before, I washed my hair like I was going on a date. He set an alarm and made oatmeal at 5 a.m. because I couldn't eat after 6 and I get mean when I'm hungry. The anesthesiologist came to talk and said, "Any airway issues?" And I almost laughed because my issue was existing, but I said no because I'm not trying to be dramatic on a surgical form. I woke up to him sitting next to me reading the packet like he was studying for a test. The surgeon said I had a small polyp and some thin adhesions that she snipped away, nothing scary. She used the word clean to describe my uterine cavity and I clung to it. Clean. I felt like I'd been living in a house after a flood and someone finally opened the windows. While all this medical stuff was happening, life did what life does and threw a family firecracker into it. My cousin, the one I wanted to try with, announced her pregnancy at my aunt's famous lasagna night. The lasagna was still bubbling when she stood up and said they were 11 weeks and showed the picture. The room went into a squeal. I was fine for 10 seconds. I even walked up and hugged her and told her I was happy for her because I am. And then I went into the bathroom and locked the door and tried not to make any noise. He knocked. "Do you need me?" I said, "I need 60 seconds. I pulled myself together and went back out. His mom watched me like I was about to spill something on her rug. My aunt hugged me long and whispered soft in my ear, "I know." After dinner my cousin pulled me into the hallway and said she was sorry for how she'd handled the party thing, that she should have asked me before telling everyone and she hadn't thought about it. She said I have permission to tell her to shut up about every symptom until I'm ready. I said I'm fine hearing about gas. We both laughed because it was that or cry again. On the way home he tapped the steering wheel and said, "Do we need to go to less things like that for a while?" I told him I don't want to turn into a ghost. I just need to know he can get me out when I pull the ripcord. He said he'll start the car before I even get to the door. He also told me something I didn't know. A week before our anniversary argument his uncle cornered him in the garage and said, "You can still have a legacy with someone else." He shrugged it off at the time because that man says the worst possible version of everything, but he said it got into his head and rattled around. I hate that I wasn't the first person he told because it explains so much about the pressure cooker he turned into overnight. He promised that next time he'll tell me when someone plants a bad seed like that, so we can reject it together and not let it sprout into panic. At work he tweaked his back lifting something stupid and ended up on light duty for a week. He came home quiet that night, sitting hunched at the table like an old man, and said, "This is it. This is what I'm afraid of, you and a baby and me being, this." It was the most honest thing he'd said since the last honest thing. We looked at the job board together and he applied for a supervisor training program that starts in January. I could see the relief in his shoulders just hitting submit. It felt like someone opened a window in his head too. We made another appointment, this time with cardio obstetrics, and the PA there spoke to me like I was a grown woman and not a crime scene. We talked about home blood pressure monitoring and the way my heart tries to leap out of my chest when a cuff inflates. She told me to bring my own machine to every appointment so we can cross-check and reduce the white coat jump. I went to Target that night and bought the good one that fits my arm. He learned how to wrap it around me smooth so it doesn't pinch, and he announces the numbers like a baseball score. The first time he said, 122/78, we high-fived like dorks. We saw my endocrinologist too, who is somehow 24 and 40 all at once. She tweaked my levothyroxine and wants 2 good labs before we even think about tossing the condoms. She explained it in math I actually understood. Pregnancy is like turning up your body's thermostat and the thyroid has to keep up, so we don't want to start with the battery half dead. She wrote a note for the MFM that felt like a permission slip we have to earn. We even did the awkward let's see if your swimmers can swim appointment for him, because if I'm going to be poked and scoped, he can at least provide a sample in a room with a weird chair. He came out and said, "That was the least sexy thing I've ever done," and then we got lunch because everything deserves a sandwich. His results came back fine. He carried the printout around for an entire day like a golden ticket until I made him put it in the baby folder. Yes, we have a folder now. It lives in the drawer with the takeout menus. It felt ceremonial to slide the results and referrals and scribbled notes in there, like telling the universe we are not quitting, we are documenting. Through all of it, we keep tripping over grief and then picking it up together. I found the hospital bracelet in the back of my jewelry box. I didn't even realize I'd saved it. I brought it to him and he took it with 2 hands like it was made of glass. We sat on the edge of the bed and said our son's name out loud for the first time in months. It made the room feel holy. I told him that if we try again and lightning strikes twice, I will still be glad I knew that little boy for the time that I did. He said, "Me too," and we cried into each other like people who love the same ghost. We haven't set a hard date for trying. We set a few guardrails instead. We're waiting for 2 stable thyroid labs. We're waiting for the hysteroscopy follow-up and the cardio clearance. We're both in therapy and we agreed to do 3 more couple sessions before we start, because that felt like a thing we could count. The doctor said within 6 months is reasonable, and that number sits on my tongue like a pill I'm learning to swallow without gagging. We did a small thing that felt big. We told our families we will not be answering questions about babies at gatherings. He sent the text to his side, I sent it to mine. People didn't reply with hearts and claps. One person sent a thumbs up. One aunt called me sensitive behind my back and my cousin snitched immediately. That used to undo me. It doesn't now. We let the group chat simmer down and then proceeded to bring potato salad like always. The world didn't split open. The part that surprised me, maybe the craziest thing of all, because I genuinely didn't think it was possible yet, is that I felt excited for an hour last night. Not excited like fantasy nursery boards and tiny shoes, excited like, what if my body is a place that can be safe? I was folding laundry and noticed my hand wasn't shaking. It passed, because I remembered the beeping and the faces and I'm me, but it happened, and I'm letting it count. We're not naive. There's a universe of things that could still go wrong. We also have more information and more people on our team than we did last time. He's softer with me now that he knows what's under my I'm not sure. I'm softer with him now that I know what's under his we're running out of time. He doesn't use that phrase anymore. He says, we're making time. I like that better. It feels like we're building something, not outrunning a clock. Tonight he grilled chicken that was only medium charred, and we ate on the back steps because our table is covered in forms and lab slips and my blood pressure machine. He pointed at the folder and said, this is the first thing we've made for our kid. I rolled my eyes and then kissed him because he was right. It's not a crib. It's not a sonogram. It's a stack of paper that says we're going to try, and we're doing it on purpose, together. Update 3. I don't know how to start this one because everything I thought was solid just shifted under my feet. We were doing so well. The therapy sessions were actually helping. My thyroid levels came back stable for the 2nd time in a row, and we had our follow-up with the MFM scheduled for next Friday to get the final green light. I even caught myself looking at cribs online last week without my chest getting tight. We felt ready. Or at least, I felt ready, and I thought he did too. Then Tuesday happened. I came home from work around 5:30 and his truck was in the driveway, which was weird because he'd been staying late at the supervisor training sessions. I walked in and found him sitting at the kitchen table with his phone face down and this look on his face I hadn't seen since the hospital. Hollow, like someone had scooped him out. Hey, I said, setting down my purse. You're home early. He didn't look up. Yeah. I waited for more, but nothing came. The silence stretched until I couldn't take it anymore. What's wrong? That's when he finally looked at me, and his eyes were red-rimmed. I need to tell you something, and I don't know how. My stomach dropped. All those months of rebuilding trust and communication, and suddenly we were back to secrets. Just say it. He picked up his phone, stared at it, put it back down. Remember I told you about the guys at work giving me shit about having kids? Yeah. Well, there's this woman in the office. Sarah. She handles the scheduling for the training program. He paused, rubbing his face. She's been. I don't know. Nice to me. Asking how things are going, if I need help with anything. The bottom fell out of my world, but I tried to keep my voice steady. Okay, nothing happened, he said quickly, looking up at me with desperate eyes. I swear to God, nothing physical happened. But what? He took a shaky breath. But I've been talking to her. About us. About how scared I am that you're going to change your mind about kids. About how I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you since the anniversary fight. She listens, and she doesn't make me feel like an asshole for being worried. I sat down hard in the chair across from him. You've been talking to another woman about our marriage. Yes. His voice cracked. And today she told me she's getting divorced. That her husband never wanted kids and now she's 33 and starting over. She said we have more in common than I think. The words hit me like ice water. What did you say? I said I was married and trying to work things out. But. He looked down at his hands, but for about 10 minutes, I sat there and wondered what it would be like to be with someone who wasn't scared of everything. Someone who didn't need medical clearance to have a conversation about the future. I felt like I'd been slapped. So you're telling me this why? Because you want out? Because you found someone easier? No. He reached across the table, but I pulled my hands back. No, that's not why I'm telling you. I'm telling you because I came home and felt sick about it. Because I realized I was doing exactly what I accused you of, keeping secrets and making decisions without you. I stared at him, trying to process. 3 months ago, he'd been angry that I wasn't communicating. Now he was having emotional conversations with another woman about our marriage. How long has this been going on? About 3 weeks. Just talking, I swear. But today when she said that thing about having things in common. He shook his head. I knew I had to tell you before it became something I was hiding. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our backyard where we'd eaten dinner on the steps just last week, talking about making time instead of running out of it. Everything felt contaminated now. Are you attracted to her? I asked without turning around. Silence. Long enough that I had my answer. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I am. I closed my eyes and leaned my forehead against the glass. What do you want me to say? Thank you for your honesty? Good job on telling me before you fucked her? I want you to tell me what we do now. I turned around. He looked miserable, but also relieved, like he'd been carrying this around and was glad to set it down. Meanwhile, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I don't know what we do now, I said. I don't know if I'm more hurt that you were attracted to someone else or that you were complaining about me to her. I wasn't complaining. You told her I was scared of everything. That I need medical clearance for conversations. That's complaining. He opened his mouth, then closed it. You're right. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't unfuck this up. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. We were supposed to get cleared to try for a baby next week. We have a folder full of lab results and referrals and plans, and now I find out you've been having an emotional affair. It wasn't an affair, what would you call it then? Because from where I'm sitting, you've been getting emotional support and validation from another woman while telling her how difficult your wife is. That sounds like an affair to me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're right. I'm sorry. We sat in silence until I couldn't stand it anymore. Is this because of the cancer? Because I'm complicated and she's not? No. He looked up sharply. This isn't about the cancer. Then what is it about? Because 3 months ago you told me you were scared of losing me again, and now you're shopping around for someone less damaged? I'm not shopping around. His voice was getting defensive, which made me angrier. Then what the fuck are you doing? I'm scared. He exploded. I'm scared that we're going to go through all of this, the tests and the monitoring and the trying, and something's going to go wrong again. I'm scared that you're going to get pregnant and die, or lose another baby and blame me for pushing you into it. I'm scared that I'm going to spend the next year walking on eggshells, terrified that every headache is preeclampsia and every missed call means you're in the hospital. I stared at him. So your solution was to find someone you could practice being married to? Someone without medical trauma? That's not how I thought of it. But that's what it was. I felt strangely calm now, like I was watching this happen to someone else. You got scared of our real life, so you started auditioning for a different one. He buried his face in his hands. I fucked up. I know I fucked up. Yeah, you did. I stood up. I need some air. Don't leave. Please. Let's figure this out. I'm not leaving. I'm going to sit on the back steps for a while. You can stay here and think about whether you want to be married to me or to Sarah from scheduling. I grabbed a sweater and went outside. The evening was cool and quiet, and I could hear him moving around inside the house. My phone buzzed, a text from my cousin asking if I was excited about the appointment next week. I almost laughed. Yesterday I was excited. Today I didn't even know if there would be an appointment. After about an hour, he came out and sat next to me on the steps. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to talk. I ended it, he said. I called her and told her I couldn't talk to her anymore outside of work stuff. I told her I was committed to working on my marriage. How did she take that? She said she understood. That she hoped things worked out for us. I bet she did. We sat quietly for a while. Then he said, I don't want anyone else. I want you. I want our life, even with all the complications. But you also want someone easier. No, I wanted to feel like I wasn't constantly on the verge of losing everything that matters to me. But that's not Sarah's problem to solve. It's mine. I looked at him. I can't do this if you're going to bail every time things get scary. Having a baby is going to be scary. Raising a kid is going to be scary. Hell, being married is scary. If you can't handle scary, then maybe we shouldn't be doing any of this. I can handle scary. I just handled it wrong this time. This time, what about next time? What happens when I'm 8 months pregnant and paranoid about every twinge? Are you going to find another woman to tell you how unreasonable I'm being? No. That won't happen again. How do I know that? He was quiet for a long time. Then, because I'll go back to individual therapy. Because I'll tell you when I'm scared instead of telling someone else. Because I'll remember that you're not the enemy, the fear is. I wanted to believe him, but I also felt like we'd just undone 3 months of rebuilding trust with one conversation. I don't know if I can get cleared for pregnancy next week feeling like this, I said. I don't know if I can go into something this risky when I'm not sure you're all in. I am all in. Are you? Because it doesn't feel that way. We went to bed in separate rooms that night. This morning he left for work early, and I called in sick because I couldn't imagine sitting in meetings pretending everything was normal. I've been on the couch all day, staring at our folder full of medical clearances and wondering if any of it matters now. I have an appointment with my individual therapist tomorrow. I think I need to figure out what I want before I can figure out what we want. The appointment with the MFM is still scheduled for Friday. I don't know if he's still planning to go with me, and I don't know if I want him to.